Hello everyone and welcome to another Chud Watch stream. How you doing? This one's gonna be fucking painful. This is gonna be two of my least favorite public figures to ever exist, Elon Musk and Donald Trump, having a conversation together. I've heard zero of this. I've not heard any of it. I've not watched any clips. I have no idea what happens in this. I imagine they're just gonna stroke each other's egos. And, yeah. Let's get through this. We will be doing Tinfoil Tuesday after this stream. I'll probably stop this stream when it's done, take like a 30-minute break or something, and then come back and we'll do Tinfoil as normally scheduled. But I couldn't not watch this. I hate both of these people. So anyway, let's do it. Stuff out of the way first. Costume month is almost over. I think this is the 29th day. We're over halfway to the third costume month, so if you want to contribute to that, make sure you use the tip link. Subscriptions, memberships, bits, all of these are appreciated. I couldn't do these shows without you guys and without your support. So with all that out of the way, I guess let's just get into the most egos shoved into a phone call in history? Demibird does. Thanks for 20 months. Says, woohoo! Ready to cringe today. Might do some Hannah fan art if I could find good references. How's this? Use those as references.
As this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say. And but I'm honored to have this conversation.
Yeah, Elon, basically the site crashed, or the spaces, which is what they call the live calls on Twitter, crashed because the website's held together with, like, twigs and tape nowadays. And Elon claimed it was a DDoS attack, which also, you're one of the biggest websites in the world. Even if it was a DDoS attack, you don't have measures against that. That seems like a you problem, my friend. Mr. Duck Sauce, thanks for subscribing. PK the Lost, thanks for 44 months. And a hydrate. We are on a hype train, 96% to level 1.
And I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation.
Because we haven't had, like, 9 years to find that out. Is Elon under the impression that we don't have a vibe for Trump? He was the president. We know about Donald Trump, Elon. This is not an issue that he hasn't had enough media exposure. You just don't get him. You just don't get him, guys. If you saw him in conversation, you'd really like him. Okay.
So it's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when this,
I don't know if he's capable of talking in a normal way. What do you think normal talking is?
An adversarial interview, like no one's themselves in an adversarial interview. So and this is really,
he's been in non-adversarial interviews. He's been in plenty of interviews where people just suck his dick. He's been on Fox and Friends. Are you kidding me? He's been all over Fox News where they just slob on his fucking orange knob.
Open-minded, independent voters who...
Open-minded, independent voters that haven't paid any attention the last 10 years.
They're just trying to make up their mind. So you can understand, like, what is... what is it just like to have a conversation? So...
hey, fun fact, I don't need to have a conversation with the president. I need them to be capable of doing their job. Fun fact. Overthought says, thank you for that image, Hannah. You're welcome. I have plenty more. Level 1 of the hype train complete. Thank you so much.
Honored Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silence.
So Trump is doing big ad buys now on Twitter, and part of me's wondering how much of that is, did he and Elon come to some sort of agreement This is speculative. I have no inkling of this outside of a narrative in my own head. Don't take this seriously. But my brain goes, did they come to an agreement where Trump would buy a bunch of ad space up on Twitter because they're struggling for ad money? And in return, Elon would do this interview with Trump, which Trump thought would help him? It just feels like that. Again, I'm not saying that's true. It's just the thing started happening like exactly the same time, and it feels like this is part of the ad buy he bought.
Of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And so we have to consider it an honor.
Wow, he sounds really old in this interview.
But
like, I know Trump is
congratulations.
old, but he sounds particularly old. I don't know if it's because you can't see him in this and you're only focusing on his voice. Oh no, we're relearning the JFK, Nixon debate. Radio versus television lesson all over again. History doesn't repeat itself, but, it rhymes.
And breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, maybe we could start off with, I mean, the assassination attempt, which was an incredible thing. And I have to say that, you know, your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You know, you, instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying, fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, I mean, you know, the president of the United States represents America. And I think that is...
He's not the president! Fedekagami says, whatever the case, Trump is posting on Twitter now and it's tanked the stock of Truth Social. Beautiful.
That is America. That is strength under fire. And so that's, you know, a big, you know, part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here is that was just incredibly inspiring. But I mean, what was it like for you?
Not pleasant. I have to be honest. I said there was blood. I had more blood. I didn't know I didn't know I had
Oh
that
god, he's like over laughing at a joke that wasn't that funny. Oh no.
much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about because it went at the right angle. And
it was the best alternative to my brains being splattered all over my beautiful big crowd. We have the biggest crowds, the biggest sprays of my brains. Razor Girl Luna says, remember the day when an entire campaign could be tanked by someone being filmed windsurfing? I miss those days. Maybe a happy medium somewhere would be nice, but I don't like this.
You know, it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. You know, I was telling somebody you have instances like this or like a lot less than this where you feel it's a surreal situation. And I never felt that way. I do immediately.
Trump sounds like he's doing a bad impression of Trump. Yeah, I have to actually admit to all of you, this was me. I prank called Elon, and he bought it. 30 seconds left on the hype train.
Immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was...
I knew immediately it was the bullet. Some of it might have been the gunshots that tipped me off. Most people don't know. Gunshots mean bullets.
At the ear.
Yeah.
And because it, you know, it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, bullets, bullets, you know, get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly. And we had bullets flying.
He's commending himself for his ducking.
Right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter. And so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was, for those people that don't believe in God, I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to, you know,
That's something, did Trump start thinking about it? Because I don't think Trump is actually religious in any way, shape, or form. He just pretends for, like, evangelicals. Did he start believing in potentially God because he didn't get his brains blown out when, like, statistically he probably should have?
I'm a believer. Now I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me,
I'm a believer. Now more of a...
actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect
Yeah.
angle, and all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart
I
even
mean,
more
maybe
now
it's a
than I
sign.
ever.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's a sign, you know.
it's an immigration sign.
You
But
highlighted a serious issue,
Elon is an immigrant, by the way,
and
yeah,
at
as you
that
all know.
moment,
that's right.
the bullet missed your, you know, hit your ear, but you know, missed your head. I mean,
Well,
you know,
the
yeah,
amazing thing is that the sign, I said, bring down that sign on immigration. And it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good. And after that, it was going to
yeah,
be a
I
disaster.
will say this, if Trump wins this election, that rally where he was shot at is going to be the subject of so many historical what-if stories.
So no matter which way you were facing, but it just had that perfect angle, which was
yeah,
exactly at this shooter. Very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey,
yeah,
who a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great trumper.
Based on his posts on social media, I wouldn't call him a gentleman. He didn't deserve to get shot and killed. But he also wasn't a good guy, based on his posts on social media.
He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, "I'd like to give the family some kind of help." And I said, "All right, that's great." He said, "Do you mind?" I said, "I don't mind at all." And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife, and you know, she said, "This is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back," which is a nice thing for
sure,
somebody to say, to be honest. She's
It's a nice thing for someone to say. You know, believe it or not, she actually probably believed that, Trump. Unlike you, like, she probably actually cared about her spouse,
she's
so...
great. The family is great, and we raised a lot of
yeah,
money for them and for two other gentlemen are unbelievable people. Also, they were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them
yeah,
equally. And we thought
yeah,
my first question was because I heard bullets flying over me. And I said, how many people were killed? Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous
yeah,
thousands
Tremendous. The biggest crowds, the biggest targets.
and thousands of people. And there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, how many people have been killed? Because I knew there were other shots being fired.
sure,
And they said, we don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt. And I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper,
yeah,
because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was
yeah,
able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The
Yeah, they're a sniper. That's their job.
shooter was 130, but he was on
yeah,
he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium, and he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do
yeah,
that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot of people, a lot more people could have been
sure,
badly hurt and killed. So
yeah,
I have to
absolutely,
take my hat off to him because that's also a surreal. You know, he's been with them for 23 years, and
yeah,
he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden, he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to
sure,
act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. I obviously has very good eyes.
The flame,
He's got very good vision, which
the muzzle flash.
assume you have
yeah,
to have in that particular work. But he took
absolutely,
aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range,
yeah,
one bullet. If that didn't happen,
yeah,
because the shooter had a lot of bullets, he had a lot of cartridges up
sure.
there with him. So
Well,
That doesn't sound very tinfoil Spokane Dog Man. That's, like, tangentially related at best. I don't know. Razor Girl Luna says, so is Trump's crowd size obsession like his version of that's why I had an Orion or an onion tied around my belt, which was the style at the time? Just one of his verbal tics. It's one of the things he's got to bring up.
I mean, that's clearly,
Oh yeah, there is a person with a CryptoPunks NFT profile.
he was very competent in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean, there does seem to be, I mean, some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like, there's just no way that, like, how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? That seems crazy. I think most people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen.
Well, I view it as two ways.
People always assume that the Secret Service is hyper competent. History has not shown that to be the case.
There should have been nobody on the roof. There were people,
Yeah.
because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were.
He's claiming there were tens of thousands of people there. We've seen the whole event. There weren't even a single 10,000 people there, much less tens of thousands of people.
People that were seeing him, and there was one woman with a red shirt and
Right.
Trump all over it,
I saw the video.
and she's screaming, "That guy's got a gun!"
I don't even know if he's lying as much as I think Trump's just really bad at estimating size. I think he looks at a crowd and goes like, "That's like 20,000 people," and does like I don't think he's good at estimating based on just looking at a crowd of people how many people are in it.
You saw it, probably.
So I don't know if he's lying to us as much as I think he's just bad at this, and his narcissism causes him to create very large numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a guy
I saw
up
the
there
videos.
with a gun.
I mean, it's like I guess, I mean, for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering how the heck are basically people wandering by pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
Yeah.
And they're seeing it, but somehow
Oh my god, how much are they going to talk about this fucking shooting?
it's not being addressed. That does seem crazy.
Well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up, and he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself
for 30
up.
minutes? Are you kidding me? Why?
And because of that, he couldn't get to his gun, and he fell down, actually very badly hurt his leg, his ankle. I hear very badly, but he fell down.
That's cartoon level right there. That's kind of hilarious.
And he did, from what I understand, he did say there's a guy up there with a gun, and the shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. He was supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah.
My
Hey,
sons,
Volkine, how you doing?
Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened, but they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf, sinking a 2-foot putt.
Yeah, it's not a tough shot.
I like the implication that it was explained to him, and he's like, "Can you explain it in terms of golf? You have a golf metaphor for me, or maybe even a simile?" J. Ronimus with a 10-stream streak says, "The only other notable thing is all the various ways his campaign is currently failing miserably that are getting worse every day."
It's not a long shot. The Secret Service person had the long shot. He had a triple the distance, actually. So it was a terrible thing. Look, it's hard. I have to say this about the Secret Service. When I went down, and I went down based on, I think they're screaming. But other people also, because people saw this happen. You had so many people. One of the miracles was that nobody ran. I mean, if a gun goes off, the crowd control people showed us this. When guns go off, and it does happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They call it a stampede, like cattle. But everybody, and a lot of people get killed with those stampedes. We had more people than you'd have at some of these matches or these games, and nobody left. You had a small group behind us.
Yeah, Elon did claim this interview had over 1 billion views. Elon claimed like 1/8 of the planet watched this interview.
And that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place, and
don't worry though, he dealt with the bots for sure.
Normally they'd be running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was hurt. They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down, and it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. As far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see, and
Yeah.
and a lot of press too. There was,
VT, thanks for
you know,
following.
many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it. So,
Yeah.
you know, sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede.
Sure.
Nobody. And there were some people behind me, they stood up and they're looking like, you know, I mean, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some.
It just kind of sounds like they're fucking idiots. Oh, someone's shooting? Let's stick my head up. That's the same shit Trump did. He also got up and was like, fight! Like, I not strategically a sound thing to do while being shot at. I do not actually want people in a foxhole with me that are gonna poke their head out and go, oh, what's going on? I am dressed as Velma. Yes, we do costume month, and every day my Discord votes on what costume to wear. I have a bunch of them. Today, Velma won.
Some of those people,
Sure.
because
Sure.
it's so different from what you heard. But so I was down, but the Secret Service
Yeah.
guys, there were bullets flying right over my head. You could hear them go whizzing,
Yeah.
and these guys came jumping on top of me, you know, and a young lady, Kate, uh, would jump. They moved so fast, and let me tell you, that took tremendous courage. Now there was a lack of coordination. There was, you know, obviously everybody understands that somebody that building should have been covered, and
Yeah. I mean,
that was
I
the
think
big
that
thing.
like I mean, looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the number one spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like the if you were to pick like what is the favorite what if you so if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building, the
You're
roof of
right.
that building would be number one.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better
No,
location. It's like number
no, that
one.
would have been the spot.
Um,
You know what people think
yeah.
is when the local policeman, who, by the way, you know, he really he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer. And then when he got
Yeah.
his head just peeking above, this guy standing there with a gun at his head. And when he fell down again, hurt his ankle very badly. But he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So what they
Yeah.
think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast, and maybe that's why he sort of missed. I mean, you know,
I thought you said God did it, Trump. What do you mean? What? The actual, like, etiological circumstances led to this? I was told it was divine intervention.
he
Yeah. But
he
as you
got
say,
me, but
he
it
would have
could have
hit.
been
I mean,
a much
yeah.
bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So, like there was it was a very near
It
thing.
was a
So,
miracle. If I hadn't
um,
turned my head,
yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would
well,
not be talking to you.
maybe talking to me from another realm, perhaps.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. We'd be talking from a
so
different place. But it was a
I
yeah.
would have liked to see that space where Elon tries to use like a Ouija board in order to communicate with Trump.
It was a very terrible experience. The
It was the best assassination, the biggest assassination in history. The news coverage, you wouldn't believe it. Abraham Lincoln wished he could have had the coverage I had.
Butler Hospital, they did such
My funeral had the biggest crowds. Bigger than JFK. Bigger than Little John.
a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. There was a mistake. If somebody knew, because people were hearing that, you know, there was just a bad feeling that there was somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been pretty
yeah,
well.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, you know, like there'd be a lightning storm or something. Because I've done, I think over 300. I think I did a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And oftentimes they'll say, "Sir, could you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something," right? And
yeah,
that happens
yeah,
often. And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but
yeah.
it didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
Well, it was your. I think your actions in the heat of fire, and like what I found
This is a 2-hour interview.
there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual or it is not. It's not a rehearsed action. And so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there. And
Well,
yeah, so
thank you very
yeah,
much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it.
Courage and stupidity are result dependent. Sort of like a superposition.
I just wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up. And they wanted, they have everything there. They wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else
yeah,
because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure
Spokane Dogman says, I ran over 100 yards, further than that lead football guy, the what you call him, quarterback. You ran, ran further than that, but honestly, Spurs stopped me.
that I was hit someplace else. And they were
He
saying,
did ask for his shoes.
sir, you were hitting more than the ear. I said,
He
nope,
needs the shoes. They got the lifts in them.
I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up. And so I got up, and the crowd didn't know
I don't
what.
even understand Trump's obsession with height, because it's not like he's like a super short guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it matters either way, but like, he's not like 5, 6, 5'5". I think he's like 5'11" or something, but he's obsessed with like getting over to like 6'2". Who the fuck cares?
to
It's
think.
such a
I mean,
weird vanity thing.
this was so many people, and you could see they were confused. They didn't know what to think. And I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them
yeah,
know that. And they went wild. You've seen the after. They didn't go wild when I
yeah,
got up because they didn't know, was I alive. You really couldn't tell when I stood up before the hand, before the fist in the air. They didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did. And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was pretty amazing.
yeah.
It was a
Well,
terrible thing, but
it was
pretty amazing.
incredibly moving. Yeah. Well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn that saved your life, really, was the illegal immigration
Right,
slide. Maybe this,
that's right.
maybe this is worth talking about that
It was
You're 5'6", me too.
it was.
that slide saved
You're
your
right.
life,
No,
basically.
the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but I
I
had to
know
be at
that's
that exact angle.
I mean, that's a great one. Saved by illegal
The
immigration.
incredible
100%.
thing though, when you talk about
Elon is the least charismatic person, and I hate it. It's like he thinks he's being personable, but he's just weird. You're so funny. Illegal immigration. You got it.
the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the
Yeah,
incredible thing is that the chart, I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
yeah,
It's always on my left, never my right, and it's always at the end of the speech. So here
yeah,
we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and
yeah, yeah.
that normally you wouldn't use it.
I
Normally I
so
wouldn't
badly just want to skip past them talking about this. They're just going in circles. They're just going in circles.
have the thing.
Please get on another topic. I'm gonna make the speed faster, at least until we get past this part, because I do not care about them talking about him almost getting shot in the head.
And then, it
Yeah.
would have been a very different story. It's very much, I say, an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm
Sure.
honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Well,
Wow, he's at 1.5 speed. He sounds kind of normal.
what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted?
Well, I was going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go
Great.
back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area. Great, these are incredible people.
I can't say that on never mind. I can't make this joke.
Like the three
I
that,
can't make this joke. It's a little too close to incitement, so no.
in the case of Corey killed, and the other two, the families I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler, and I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying,
As you
prior
were
to being
saying.
so horribly interrupted.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so really interrupted by an
Yeah,
assassination
so,
attempt.
but no, but the chart,
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week, we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart. It's become quite a famous chart,
Yeah.
but that was the lowest
Yeah.
point ever recorded. It was a really, I mean, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see
During
what happened.
COVID? You mean during COVID, people were migrating less? Correct?
And they just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Guys like Tom Homan and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. These are all people that they've been on television. They say it's the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where many people come in there, they have contagious diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting literally records, and all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes.
Sure.
And in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that. But they were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart was very important. Very important.
He's going to sleep. I know he's making a joke. I understand. But I feel like this is not the time to be making that joke when it's a focal point of the media on your campaign that you're weird. Just a thought.
For a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but we also need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal immigration, because that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell a difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately represent your position?
I say it very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked. Yeah. Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could.
He must have gotten a talking to about the pronunciation of her name, because he never did. Even in my impression of Trump, I have him say Kamala, but he would always say Kamala. He would, up to like 2 days ago, he would intentionally always say Kamala.
Close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that.
I think the no tax on tips thing is stupid. I think the no tax on tips things is stupid and a really bad idea, no matter who's proposing it. That's a bad idea, and all it's going to do is shift responsibilities away from employers onto employees and customers to pay for things. Because all of a sudden it's going to be, oh no, our job compensation is more based on tips. Don't you want that? Because they're not taxed. And then you're not going to get payroll taxes from the employers. It's a really stupid idea, is what I'm trying to say. So Trump said it, and I think Kamala and her campaign said it because they think it's like a talking point that people like, because people are idiots. But that by no circumstances should ever happen. It's incredibly stupid. It's a bad idea.
Just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were.
No, Dillis Filler, you don't understand what I'm saying. I know you don't get payroll tax for tips. I'm saying employers will use this as an excuse to try and make more and more kinds of compensation tip-based as opposed to income-based from the employer, which is part of payroll taxes.
To go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. I'm
saying it'll create negative externalities that'll make the labor market shift towards more tip-based compensation than income-based from the employer, which is bad for everyone.
They had a policy they were really going to go after you, and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job in the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe.
He put his dentures in. I just think he used the wrong poly grip.
Like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world, they're coming from Asia.
Elon Musk is an immigrant from Africa.
They're coming from the Middle East, they're coming from countries that are...
countries no one has ever even heard of.
stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you know, you look at, it's so sad, October 7th, because it should have never happened.
Yeah.
It's so
Wow, he's just all over the place. We're talking about immigration, and now we're on October 7th in Israel-Palestine. He's just like snake gaming his way to his different talking points.
sad
Sure.
when you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a defective
Yeah.
government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the border, because you have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they
Yeah.
won't do anything. It's all talk.
Does Trump understand that the executive branch is but one of 3 branches of the government? I understand it's a presidential campaign, so you campaign on things, but it should be generally understood that you need Congress to agree with you for most actions, because the executive branch is limited in its ability to do things on its own without agreement from Congress. Social Warlock Trey says, so something important that needs to be brought out is that not only is the no tax on tips thing stupid because of regulation passed under the Trump administration, employers can take your tips, it's another pathway to exploitation and stupid as hell. I didn't even know that was a thing.
She's
No.
incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something, because he's not too good.
Yeah. No, I think it is essential to have a secure border. I mean, you're really not a country unless you have a
Correct.
secure border.
What does that even mean?
And
secure elections, too.
you know, yeah, absolutely secure elections.
Oh my god, are they going to get into election denial?
And so it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country, and our services, our essential services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities.
If you're undocumented, how do you think they're getting social services? They don't have a social security card. They don't have identification that they can use to sign up for social services.
But as we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and I'm speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, I think that I mean, like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just
Who do you want on Team America? Not Elon.
say, okay, we want to let in people who are going to be great contributors to our society and to our economy.
Right.
And
Elon thinks he's a great contributor, and all he does is shit post.
and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like, in my opinion, actually, I'd say, like, probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. But some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's if somebody's like has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here. Because we're in such a target-rich environment. I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in bad things coming here sooner? Because it's a piece.
Is he saying that he doesn't understand why there aren't more instances of undocumented immigrants committing crimes? Because statistically, undocumented immigrants commit fewer crimes than citizens. Is he upset that the world he imagines in his head isn't true because it would be good for propaganda? What is he even saying?
It's okay to go rob, houses in LA or New York compared to other parts of the world.
Not really.
And in a lot of places in America.
In the United States, we have a lot of reasons not to do that. We have a pretty strong, incarcerial system that's not afraid to lock you up and throw away the key. Also, a lot of people in America have guns. That's not a good idea.
If you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah.
So it's insane.
It's right. I mean, what's happening with crime? And our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to say,
what are police being prevented from doing?
Elon, I hate to say it because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it. But you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're allowing, again, they're allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers. They're taking, frankly, their prisoners. They're emptying out their prisons. They're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're delivering them into.
But that's what Castro did.
Yeah, well, he did on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
It was a much smaller.
I was gonna say, he's literally like repeating the Castro shit.
Yeah.
scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening. Crime.
Do you have evidence of this? Where are you getting this information?
All over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. You know, this is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be.
Yeah.
And I saw it today in New York where somebody was knifed, where they raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters and started
Sure.
pulling out the knives. And bad things happened today. But this is happening every day. These are
Fuck, man. Fenekagabi says, I think it's less that Trump doesn't understand the separation of powers as much as it's that Trump thinks the separation of powers is stupid and shouldn't exist. Remember, Trump wants to be a dictator. Yeah, but that's not really how it works.
rough people. These are people that are in jail for murder and all sorts of things, and they're releasing them into our country, and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people, and it's horrible what they're doing. And she's
God
in charge
damn,
of.
he's just out of his fucking mind. He's completely cooked. Like, we're literally watching two of the most rich and influential people in the world talk about the brain worms they got from, like, Fox News and Facebook posts. That's disturbing.
Of it, because now she's trying to say she had nothing to do with it, and she's such a liar because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location which had nothing to do with where the problem is. She went in and out, I guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure, but had nothing to do with the problem is. But she was the border czar, and people can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known what happened. You could shut the border down. He wouldn't even know the difference. But the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to call her that. The fact is you could just call her, she was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst ever.
It's simply not working.
No, it's horrible.
Whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a world.
Jay's a proxy says violent crimes per 100,000 people between 1993 and 2022, according to the FBI, went from 747.1 to 380.7, so half. Violent crime halved.
World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And
that's just racism. That's just fucking racism, comparing people from different countries to fucking undead zombies. Good God.
Sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things and you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like,
yeah, and you wore a big stupid hat.
Okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border. And
yes, people cross the border. When you're rich, can you just go to like official government things and go like, hey, I'm here. Can you show me some stuff? That how that works?
I have to say,
Republicans did vote no on the border bill because Trump told them to, because he didn't want Biden to have a win.
At least the people that I saw did not look friendly.
These
so
are
people can look at my video and say, hey, these people look friendly. I don't look super friendly. So
these are people that Elon would
not look super friendly, he says. Oh, so you took a look of these people and judged them visually based on looking at them and decided, I think you look untrustworthy. If only there was a word for that. If only we had a word for people who judge people based on looking at them for 5 seconds and using that to determine if they're criminals. Jesus. He's so not self-aware.
Be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people.
Musk was watching people going through normal customs and claimed they were streaming over the border. Are you kidding me?
These are really rough people coming across, and I know rough people, and these are people that we don't want in our country. And the caravans are coming in, and they're putting, and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is,
I don't think the
brilliant.
plane thing matters. I think people should drop the Jeffrey Epstein plane thing. It's irrelevant. Jeffrey Epstein's dead. Private planes get sold. There's only so many of them. They get rented. It's irrelevant. If you want to focus on the Epstein thing, focus on their actual material relationship, not the aesthetic of him renting a plane that used to be owned by Jeffrey Epstein. That's my opinion. I think it looks petty to be like, he's using the same plane! Alright, that's not relevant to the real stuff that he has relationships with him.
For them, because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking the non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them. But these are people that are not.
Yeah, United Auto Workers filed claims against Trump and Elon. I don't know the specifics.
Unproductive. They are just not productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
Yeah, yeah.
workers, or they don't want to work, or whatever. And these
Again, just racism, just assuming people coming into the country are lazy. Donald Trump's one of the laziest fucking presidents I've ever seen. He's a lazy bitch. Him calling anyone lazy is so hypocritical. Unconditional Prong, thanks for 26 months, says this might be the biggest set of egos I've ever seen. Harris Walls 2024. Indeed. Thank you, Justice League 3000.
these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in many cases, and they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are really brutal.
If you've ever
people.
seen these
And they're
groups
coming
of
to our country.
people, it's full of like families and children, and he's just like, they're criminals. I think they're criminals.
At levels that have never been seen before. And I saw an ad just before I got on the air. I'm walking over here, and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
Yeah, no,
we have 20 million people
I think,
boarded. It's a terrible.
yeah, I think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years
Why do you think you're qualified to say that?
of open borders,
Republicans have been complaining about the border my whole life, by the way. And believe it or not, I'm 30 years old. The United States hasn't collapsed the way they described. It's collapsed in ways that billionaires have too much fucking presence. Immigration hasn't done shit. These people are using this crap, so you stop looking at the fact that they're the fucking problem. Griffin Doggo says, children, unproductive, family, criminals. Moira Soma says, because Trump told Elon to fire people who went on strike, and that is against the law. Oh, lovely.
and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years. It's going to be even worse than it's been for the past 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country.
You don't
left
have a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. You know, we think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, you know, the 4. But it's not that.
He knows Mexico isn't South America, right? It's southern of North America, but does he know Central America's? Whatever.
It's everywhere. They're coming in from everywhere. And I had to stay in Mexico.
Yeah, I think that this is a super important point. Like people, it's
Cosmic Cat says Republicans killed a border bill because Trump told them not to vote for it. Yeah, and he told them not to vote for it so he could complain here. He did it specifically so he could use this as a propaganda point.
like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. to
No,
be clear.
Mexico less.
It's just
less
the
of the
border. It's just the border with Mexico, but the people coming in, it's
Okay, do they think we care? Do you think I care if they're from Mexico or Honduras or Brazil or any fucking where else? Who cares?
it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything. In
We're
the US.
already
So-
overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York, and I love that place. And what they're doing to it is horrible. What they're doing to it, and all the courts
Where you got all the felony convictions?
do is they
Yeah.
try and focus on Trump. Okay, let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa. From the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in.
And famously, the Congo is a great place to live, and there's never been a history of colonialism that did anything to destabilize the Congo.
From the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they're dropped. They drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, to maintain the jails. Although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, "Don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed." And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
Sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South America. They're
Do they think listing different places in the world is scary?
coming from
rest of Earth,
everywhere,
basically.
and there are a lot of really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible. So
Well, Elon, we're going to have to finish this up. We're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country what they've done to our country. Think of it. with in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
tell you what. Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% put into the United States. The same with
That math doesn't math.
other countries.
Sure.
Some are at 30%, some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to
I think he realized those maths didn't add up and he had to sue that.
be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of
Yeah.
it? And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate. Don't forget, I beat Biden.
I beat Biden. He's so mad. He's so mad.
He failed in the debate miserably. And, some people said, oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly, or I did well in the debate. The first night they said, wow. One of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different.
Yeah.
Look, she hasn't done an interview since this whole scam started. And say what you want. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want.
I love that he's on his grievance tour. He just keeps repeating like the 5 different grievances that he has at every interview. And I feel like I'm watching fucking reruns, but it's almost comedic in that way that repeating something over and over again is kind of funny.
Want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice way or we can do it the hard way.
Yeah, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
What they did with this guy.
So,
No, Trump's the one that got shot at. You're confused, Elon. Too much ketamine. Overthought says, constant economic growth that the Republicans want requires immigration so that new workers get added in, so unless you suddenly have a bunch of babies somehow, oh.
And I'm no fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine.
But he just says these things with no reason.
And we'd have no inflation. And
he just thinks magically him being the president would change fundamental material realities of political and geopolitical, issues around the globe and stopped the economic realities of inflation after COVID.
And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it.
Well,
and we wouldn't have had Afghanistan. But we think of it.
You're the one that negotiated the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
You take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also have inflation was caused by oil.
Yeah. No.
What?
I think you're making that.
Inflation was caused by having to give people stimulus checks and the PPE loans that were forgiven. What are you fucking talking about?
Excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do?
Supply chain issues, including that ship getting stuck in the canal, didn't help either.
And
yeah, the inflation is global. The United States is actually, relative to other countries, done a pretty good job of handling it. I know it's materially bad. I live here too and have to buy food and pay bills, and I'm broke as shit. But compared to the rest of the world, we're doing okay, and things I think are getting a little bit better, so that's good.
They fear the American president, or is it someone they do not respect and do not fear? And I think they would rightfully be. I mean,
And yes, price gouging.
Look at the footage of the assassination. They're like, okay, President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, that's whereas I think people are not going to be, they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think about it.
What are they talking about? This is genuine. Is this how these people think? They think it's the president's job to be a big, scary boogeyman? Jesus Christ.
The context
this is not how, any sort of foreign policy works.
Of global security. That if the American president is someone that evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So
dictators aren't afraid of Trump. He constantly says how fucking awesome they are and how good of friends he is with them. He recently talked about, oh, Kim Jong-un loves me and Putin and I. He does this shit all the time. I didn't Fenekagami, sorry. Fenekagami says, Kamala has promised on day one to come to the border detention centers. or to come the border detent. I don't know what that word was supposed to be, but I'm not holding my breath. Meanwhile, Trump has sent a cease and desist over on his rally themes, and if he doesn't comply by the 16th, he'll be sued for massive copyright infringement. He's not going to pay.
Oh, I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff.
Biden's soft on dictators, but also I have a very good relationship, a close relationship with Putin.
Some just bad people, just sick people, frankly.
Innocuous blonde with 33 months as I reach my conspiracy subiversary. Also, I'm in my 3rd week on my brand new job and happy I can tune in during lab work. Rock on, Hannah. Thank you, and I hope the new job's going great, and good luck with the lab work.
I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country in danger with that stuff, too. They actually, when they make up stories and you have to
Gotcha. Thank you.
fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord
Don't ever do it. Okay, so he didn't listen to you. So he doesn't respect you, you fucking idiot. God, he's so dumb.
Stream too. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the world, going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say, I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No, he actually said to me one time,
You just said you were. What? He's contradicting himself. He's like, they keep saying I love Russia. I'm really good friends with Putin. We talk all the time. We were great. It was the apple of his eye. Like, and then he's like denying that he is friends with Putin and likes him. He's contradicting himself between sentences.
You're my friend. I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline, the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that to fund. And this pathetic president gets in there. And the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers. Shuts it down.
Temporary workers, to be clear. They'd work on the development and building of the pipeline, and then they'd move on to the next job because they're contractors. They're not permanent employees.
That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow. Yeah. I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline.
Does he understand that pipelines can leak underground?
The Keystone XL pipeline. Yeah. He shuts that down and he approves the Russian pipeline.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's inconsistent. Certainly
I don't think that. What are you talking about?
But I mean,
different scenarios are different.
I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners, the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how
he really believes this shit. Oh my God, what a psycho!
Much that matters to global security.
What a genuinely fucking bonkers thing to say. You think that it has nothing to do with the United States policy, strategies, armament, military strength, any of that, just literally the individual that's the president has to be intimidating? These people are morons! Diogenes 42, thanks for gifting a sub.
There's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to do.
I know every one of them.
And it puts the whole world in danger.
Elon, I know every one of them, and I know them well. I know Putin, I know President Xi, I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, oh, this is terrible. He said, I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough.
I'm not saying anything good or bad, but they're at the top of their game. They're the GOAT. He's saying this about dictators. Brutal dictators.
They're smart, they're vicious, and they're going to protect their country, whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. When
Iran is attacking them because they attacked Iran? They literally murdered, people. I get it. It's a conflict, but also, they killed people in Iran. Counterattacks are going to happen when you do that.
When I was there, and I say it with respect because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll pass. They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise.
Sure.
You want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it.
I don't know. I think it's just the gripper on his dentures isn't doing very well. I've seen him have this problem before.
4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where
to the point where you were laughed at the UN General Assembly.
I said, don't buy oil. They didn't buy oil, but they had no money, and Israel would have never been attacked. Zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And you know, it's the last time we ever...
A presidential candidate and former president just said, as the president, he threatened the president of Russia, and he said, no way, and he responded, way. Can I wake up now? This dream sucks. I missed the one where I forgot my locker combination, and it's the last day of math class, and I never showed up.
I had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. You know, getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim Jong-un. When I met with President Obama.
Again, having a cordial relationship in the world political stage is not a commendation. That's the bare minimum. That's the bare minimum. Former presidents have also had to have discussions with geopolitical adversaries, and they do so cordially. The difference is you are actively complimenting them and acting as though you admire them for their brutal dictatorships. Kagami says, is really telling that they think the ideal leaders of the free world should be a terrifying bully, isn't it? Just like it was telling that the 2025 video talked about careers in the agencies like there were potential enemies that the appointee managing them should have an adversarial relationship with. It's telling how they see others, isn't it? It's horrifying how they see others. These people are just personality disorders wearing a trench coat.
Obama just before entering.
And I know a thing or two about personality disorders.
You know, it's a sort of...
I definitely have some.
A ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea. I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with rocket.
I'm sorry, he thinks he fixed the North Korea situation? In what way? What are you talking about?
Man, and you know, all the different things. But all of it.
I called him Little Rocket Man. I solved the international incident. Now everyone in North Korea is free.
Sudden I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they were. They were epic.
Epic tweets. That's what I want. A president that does epic tweets and calls world leaders Little Rocket Man and thinks that solves an issue.
Everything. He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger and my red button works. And then I called him Little Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden I got a call from him and they said they want...
The button on Trump's desk just has them bring him Diet Coke.
Want to meet.
Robo Twilight, thanks for a 7-stream streak. Also, that's not a joke. Look it up. Robo Twilight says, hello, Hannah. I feel so sorry for your brain cells while you're listening to this. And I gotta do tinfoil after this. What am I doing?
They want to meet me. And we met, as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam. And I got along with them great. We were in no danger. But President Obama thought we were going to end up in a war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's got a lot of nuclear stuff, too.
Exactly.
He's got plenty of nuclear. He can do plenty of damage.
Plenty of nuclear.
So. Yes, I mean, it's because, you know, I mean, people like Kim Jong-un, they respond to strength, not weakness.
Well,
And
He and I got
if you
he and I had
project
a good
strength,
relationship.
you know, yeah.
Remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto. I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Let's bring
Oh
up.
yeah, that was really stupid. Remember when Trump literally crossed the border into North Korea at the DMZ? I'm not gonna lie, North Korea had the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever in that moment, but...
Cool.
Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. You know, I always
Yeah.
say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are and controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I don't. I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden, and Bush to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, you know, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise one eighth of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest.
You would actually have less because of how surface area works. And also, you know, the displacement of countless people, the loss of homes and places. Holy fuck. This man is legitimately an idiot.
Threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming because we have 5 countries now that
Yeah.
have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. You know, Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that. And
Isn't this literally Lex Luthor's plot from the first Superman movie? Yes, it is. It's to create oceanfront property by, I think, manufacturing a nuclear war? What was the specifics? They were gonna blow up California, I think, so his property became oceanfront property.
And I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that
You're
war
saying stupid things right now! The stupid is coming from inside the skull!
that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. Everything the opposite.
That's what it was. He was gonna do something to trigger the San Andreas Fault and make it so California fell into the ocean so he would have oceanfront property. Trey says, Hannah, please play.
All of that happens. You think that people aren't going to just sell their homes and move?
Sell them to who, then? Fucking Aquaman?
Just one small problem. Sell their houses to who, Ben? Fucking Aquaman!
I love Harriton's Blimby.
And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disastrous.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the 2 armies, you lost 500,000 people. And, you know, Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story. But
I think Ukraine's actually doing okay at the moment. Didn't they just start invading part of Russia territory so they have a bargaining chip so they can get their own land back? Pretty sure I read that.
if you think about it, Russia's gone, you know, Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. You know, they've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force.
Yeah. So,
Did you know Russia? Russia's a country with a long history. They've been in multiple wars, the Napoleonic Wars.
And it's
course.
very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you, I could have stopped that. And a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a man that actually made it. It made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just
Oh my fucking god!
when you're looking at the risk of
Have people forgotten? These people lived through, like, periods where they should know about mutually assured destruction. Are they seriously talking about World War III like a conventional boots-on-the-ground war they think is gonna happen? I'm so fucking confused how these people view the world.
global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity. And
Oh, he's seen the Matthew Broderick film and apparently documentary War Games. You can tell that's what he's basing his opinion on because he used the term global thermonuclear war, which is the name of the game that Joshua, the supercomputer, plays that's actual hacking into the government systems. Elon Musk gets his opinions on movies. I do too sometimes, but the difference is I know I'm a fucking idiot.
and it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to build
yeah.
an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best Iron Dome in the world.
Israel is very small relative to the United States, and the things that are getting launched at Israel are not the same things that would be getting launched at the United States. The Iron Dome works for a lot of things. It's not going to work for an intercontinental ballistic nuclear missile. The Iron Dome stops, like, much more rudimentary projectiles.
We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel has one. Some other places have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But
did he just disclose confidential information accidentally?
Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But, with all of that being said, to me, that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100%.
MH Dark Beast with 3 stream streaks says, hey Hannah, did you see that Trump had a Mitch glitch sent it to you on Discord? There was actually something that happened in the crowd that he was waiting to end, so that's misleading. He didn't actually.
In some cases,
though it looks like it.
And this stupid administration allowed this to happen, and it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot, and we discuss the border at great length. It's nice to have a forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could...
He hasn't given any more information than he normally gives. This is the same talking points he always hits.
Do this interview. Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on you.
No, they could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out
using singular they
questions. It's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers.
Trump, she's out doing rallies, the thing you used to like to do.
It's pretty sad.
Absolutely.
But the big thing now is the economy, Elon. And as much as I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need, because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy.
Do I have the day after? Let me check. I think so. I know I have threads. Apparently I don't. I have When the Wind Blows, I have Threads, I don't have The Day After. All of these are films about the aftermath of a nuclear exchange.
It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you make. The inflation has eaten you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using
Yeah.
all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing
Right.
that's happening, and we'll end that
Well, I
quickly.
think a lot of a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the check.
Inflation is not unidimensional. Anyone who says inflation is caused by X. No. It's a multi-factor thing.
Checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the
fuck.
government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply. And if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. So really, we need to have.
Where do you... Government spending isn't printing more money. Are you talking about when the Fed oh my god, it's like when it's like he's confusing government spending with when the Fed changes the requirements, the reserve requirements for banks and prints money. He's confusing that with government spending. Oh my god.
We need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think,
Republicans add to the deficit, whereas Democrats have lowered it in every administration for at least the last 30 years. So they're just lying? H. Baird says inflation is when too much money chases too few goods or services, so increases in money supply, a drop in available products, or a combination of the two leads to inflation.
$1 trillion to the deficit roughly every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceeded the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion.
It's interest,
and it keeps
I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military. Did a great job.
You rebuilt the military.
On it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were and bombers that were 70 years old. We did a great job in that. Then we, by the way, we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest.
You guys negotiated that. You negotiated the Afghanistan. What?
Sellers of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy prices down. Energy started at the price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you. That doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the
He forgot who he was talking to for a second.
Gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to.
I think we're currently still extracting more oil than has ever been extracted at any point in human history. We are not bereft of oil drilling. Jesus.
The Trump policy. But if they won, the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy.
This country will go out of business.
That's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything. And I know you're a big fan of the AI. And I have to say that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So
does
we're
crypto.
We're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're going to need a lot of electricity. You're going to need.
Trey says the two largest exporters of natural gas went to war with each other. That is the number one thing driving up natural gas prices.
Tremendous.
That makes sense.
Electricity, like almost.
Biden approved more drilling than Trump did.
Double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government spending and have perhaps like a government efficiency commission?
How about you raise taxes for the wealthy? Did you know you can lower the deficit that way by making sure people pay their fair share of taxes? Did you know that? Sorry, I skipped like a record there for a second.
That tries to make the spending sensible, and so the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does.
waste is incredible, and nobody
A personal budget is not the same thing as a national budget, so jot that one down.
negotiates prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general officer, sir, would you please sign this document? What is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s. And the price was $5.7 billion for two planes. Now, now they're highly sophisticated.
That's insane.
They're even nicer than your plane.
They're,
Okay?
I would imagine, some of the most sophisticated planes in the world. Boeing sucks, but like, I'd imagine they're some of the most secure, safe, at least in theory, planes on the planet, because they're meant to carry the president and vice president.
Okay, but much more sophisticated. They're very, I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway. But it's 5.7.
That's a crazy
It's
number.
a crazy number. But I said, I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And
oh my God, what a child.
over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the.
Oh wow, you did some price cutting with Boeing. I'm sure that'll go well. I think maybe Kamala should get some new planes. Because holy shit.
Exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. And you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other items.
Multiply it by
the
a zillion,
numbers are
and
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love
if it were formed.
Oh my God, he wants a position in the cabinet so bad. This is fucking pathetic. G-Tara says, I'm currently working, so I have to tune in and out of the stream, but if Elon brings up his breeder nonsense, he should realize that not everyone is infected by the woke virus that tells them not to have kids. Inflation in the economy in general is why a lot of people aren't having kids. My partner and I would love to start a family, but conservative policies would only make supporting a family harder for anyone who isn't already well off. They don't believe you.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't
And
mention
he destroyed Twitter.
the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But, if you look at Argentina.
You would love it. You'll get to fire so many people and ruin so many lives. It's great.
Happy to
Yeah,
help
by the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's
I post when I go live on Twitter, but that's pretty much it. I don't use it for anything. And even that I've considered stopping doing, because, I don't think almost any of the people that follow me are on Twitter anymore. Because I get, no interaction on those tweets, which, what's even the point?
a big,
Malaysia
he's great. And
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan, that he ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme, too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought everything, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had 2,000%. And they had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to have that pretty soon. I think we have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have
I don't believe numbers.
the worst. They don't include a lot of the items that should be included.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending.
It's
taxpayer
not.
money. Yeah,
He's
effectively.
such a dumb
and having,
asshole.
just so many departments you can't even name them all. And what Milei is doing is he's cutting government spending. He's simplifying things. He's having putting in regulations that make sense. And Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement in prosperity. But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. In the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States and thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy we can run the country into the ground. And that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Argentina's
Well, think
current
of
annual inflation is 271%. Oh, they're nailing it.
education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top 6 or 7. But we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk.
Oh my god, what stupid shit is he gonna say?
I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great, because
Not every state will do great, but that is something I'm willing to risk. Please vote for Kamala. Holy shit, these people are talking about shutting down the Department of Education. I am fucking begging you people to vote.
states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the 50, I would bet that 35 would do great. And 15,
I don't know this, but I'm guessing California is probably at least in the top 10 in terms of education in the United States, and he's shitting on him.
of them, or 20 of them, will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these real...
Poirosoma with 100 bits says if they move it to the states, red states will teach creationism and not science. Oh, it's going to be so much worse than that. Bittergrin with a 15 stream streak says, this watch streak brought to you by me desperately reloading the stream from Yellowstone.
Really well-run states. We have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes.
Red states? Talking about red states that continually run at a deficit?
There's no debt. Everybody working. They're really well-run. Sure. And maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of, the land or the sun and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages to some people. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation.
Yeah. What?
But if you think about it...
He's doing accelerationism for the youth of America's education.
Yeah. You'll have some of these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better.
Trump loves the poorly educated.
And you know what it'll cost? Less than half what it is in Washington. And these people don't care about the students in these, faraway states. And it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to if each state has to compete against other states, then people will naturally move to states.
Oh my God, these rich assholes! Most people can't move. They can't afford it. What are you talking about? You out of touch psychopaths. People cannot move. They have to deal with the schools where they are. Oh my God.
States where it's better.
Well, like California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But some of these places are just badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do a good initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And you'd have a little monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. Give us a little English, right?
Sure,
right?
Yeah. No, but I mean...
Does he think they aren't teaching English classes in school?
I mean, some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul.
It's actually amazing.
People moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois, so many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? I saw where you left California.
Grayline says Illinois is 12th in educational ranking. Fennikagami says, not having a universal standard for education that every state would have to adhere to would devastate the economy, while states would fall so far behind that huge swaths of the country economy would be non-functional. Yeah, it would be bad.
and you move to
Yeah,
Texas.
it seems like California is not great for public education, but fine for college education.
Texas does a
shame.
great job. But, you know, I mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses? And
California is like it's in the top 10 biggest economies in the world, separate from the United States. They're always so talking about California like it isn't an economic powerhouse.
their taxes are already really high. You know, their taxes are among the highest taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job in their crime-ridden places.
Is it
You wonder,
fifth now? Jesus, I thought it was like ninth or sixth.
how do they continue to just go on? It's not a good situation.
I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal government.
Right. Well,
That's
you're
the
going
only
to
thing
have
that's going to
that.
get them changed.
You remember the area in California where they had that, where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money, and they went into a form of chapter, and it was very nasty for a period of time. But now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So you know, at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is, you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So you know what? Is he going to be a great governor? And you know,
Kagami says oil leaving an economy isn't bad for that economy because it's obsolete, Trump, and has been for decades. I mean, oil is still used for every petroleum product, and it's still the main fuel used for transportation. So while I do think we need to reduce our dependency on oil, to say that it is obsolete is just not true. It is still used for the vast majority of goods transportation in the United States.
you have people, I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of these, and some are very good and some are just horrible.
Well, I think that, the larger point here, too, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy, a lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money, and for people that are working day to day. It's just a form of taxation.
No, it's not. What do words mean?
And if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard.
Oh my God, they're both so dumb.
Of living, and that's a really big deal.
Well, the people that got hurt worst are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all through, you know, their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money and then they got no interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything.
Do you think people are keeping their money? Like, what are you talking about? The market, which if you're saving long term, generally you're not just going to stick it in a low yield savings account. You're going to at minimum stick it in something like a high yield savings account where it's locked up, which outpaces inflation. People often have their money, if they are doing savings, in some sort of market fund. So no, inflation has been outpaced by the market and other funds that people put their money into when they do save. So wrong.
Like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated.
And Trump loses this election cycle, where do I think the GOP will go from here? Jumping off a bridge? No, terrorism? Terrorism.
We're going to bring those people back and help those people.
I genuinely don't know. It's going to be a shit show. I imagine there'll be a lot of infighting and probably some domestic terrorism.
We've got to get the prices down. You know, when I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years ago, when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people go, they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, you know, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at it's sticker shock. They call it sticker shock, right?
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living standards of the.
He just keeps repeating that incorrect information.
Rich person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason, but unless you've got effective deregulation, like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been
Reagan destroyed the country. Half the problems we have now are because of the Reagan administration and neoliberal policies trying to chase the Reagan high. Oh my God.
40 years since we hadn't anyone really. I mean, during your administration, we made some progress, but I think there's opportunity to make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation. And if
Elon,
those two things, those are the big deals.
We set a record we did more deregulation and more restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember, I had the rule for every one we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12. And we did
Yeah.
radical
Doesn't make any sense.
cuts on all of that. And a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But we were all set. We had the best economy ever maybe in the world. And then what happened is COVID came in and we had to focus on that. And nobody.
How'd you do with that, Trump? How'd you handle COVID? Ben Kagami says, Trump thinks of oil the same way he thinks of gold bars. They used to be the center of the world, but its real value now is in tech and jewelry, not currency. Oil in the old way it was thought of is obsolete. It's not the center of the world anymore, especially in countries like ours. It's useful, sure, but other things are just as useful that can replace it in a way that if oil businesses leave. It's still the petrodollar. I mean, I just don't agree with you. Like, I want that to be the case, and other commodities are also important, but to not understand that oil, not only for transportation, but for, like, plastics and other petroleum-based products, is still, like, a driving force of the world economy. I want it to move away from that, but I just think you're wrong in saying that we've already moved past that. Like, it's just objectively wrong.
Knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got
like
the credit.
The vast, like the main way that goods travel across the country in the United States is trucks, is semi-trucks that are not electric at this time. I hope someday they will be. But right now they're not. So the vast majority of goods being shipped anywhere in the United States are being done off of oil, and that affects the prices of everything.
If had that not happened, a gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle-income people, not only businesses. But we did it for businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. We got over that bad period where everybody was dying and feeling, it was just not a good period. Interestingly, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration. And
under Biden, COVID was a thing for all 4 years. Trump only had it for the last year. That is how numbers work, yes.
We really got the brunt of it, but people don't realize more people died during his administration.
Nemesaur says, we are not. Our reserves are at best the 9th largest.
Than ours. But it diverted us from doing what I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for, almost 3 years. We had the great, and you know that probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business were during the Trump years. And also said that...
that is a damning statement as far as I'm concerned, but okay.
African-American, Hispanic-American were so incredible. They were having
African-Americans, like Elon Musk.
Asian-American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that graduated from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better. And everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and we had
That's
the problem.
So bullshit, man.
They spent trillions and trillions of dollars. They wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should probably say something about maybe my views on climate change and oil and gas.
Oh boy, are they gonna fight?
Because I think it probably different from what most people would assume. Because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is that I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy.
Wow, he's changed his rhetoric on this a lot over the last 10 years. That's funny.
And if we were to stop
He
using
realizes he shifted his audience to the right politically, so, or rather, his audience is more right than it used to be because he shifted audiences, and now he has to try and not say oil's evil.
oil and gas right now, we would all be starving and the economy would collapse. So it's, I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry. And I, the world has a certain demand for oil and gas.
I think you can recognize the need for it as we continue to transition away from fossil fuels, but you should absolutely fucking vilify them. They're fucking villains. They're evil.
The United States
the companies that have helped obscure and spend money to try and stop people from understanding climate change. Yeah, they're fucking villains. They're villains, so you can villainize them.
That than some other countries, sure. And it would help with prosperity in the U.S. And at the same time, obviously, my view is like we do over time want to move to a sustainable energy economy, because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not there. It's not infinite. And there is some risk. I think it's not. The risk is not as high as a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is like we still have quite a bit of time. But so there's not like we don't need to rush, and we don't need to stop farmers from farming, or prevent people from having steaks, or basic stuff like that. Like leave the farmers alone.
I agree. How crazy is that? Where I mean, you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle, and the whole world is a little crazy.
What the fuck are you talking about?
But it's largely
also, I hate how they talk about farmers. They talk about farmers like it's old McDonald's farm and it's like a family farm. Most farms are owned by multi-billion-dollar conglomerates. These are not small, like, family farms you're hitting at. We're talking about giant mega corporations. I hate when Republicans rhetorically use farms to evoke imagery of like, oh, just ma and pa, American Gothic type shit. That's not the reality of farming, and has not been in the United States for decades. The few family farms that exist struggle greatly.
Taken its lead from us. I do say, though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car, fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And
yeah, Trump, that's why they want to change out the power generation from stuff like oil and coal to clean energy. Yep.
So you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to, but I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
But there are tremendous, like ANWR. I got ANWR in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Everybody tried. Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove it, to get rid of it.
Nemazor says, people in Wisconsin, please remember to vote today in the August primary. There are 2 big referendums on the ballot.
Yeah, ended it.
Good. Go vote.
His secretary went in and she ended it. And what a disgrace. That's ANWR. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
but
nuclear power would be good. Nuclear power is a good thing, and we should have more of it.
And they terminated it, and I'll get it going very quickly, because not only is it big for Alaska, I mean, you talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is...
Benekagami says obsolete was probably the wrong word to use. What I mean to say is that we've started to move away from it, and we'd be further along the process if not for billionaires. While still important and likely key to the economy for the rest of our lifetimes, at least, the fact is that assuming humanity doesn't end, we're moving past the age of oil, or at least that's what I hope. I hope I'm not being too confrontational. No, I hope that too. I absolutely hope that too.
They say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size, and pure, really good stuff. And, they end it. So I think we have, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that, time,
nobody knows, he says, as if there aren't people whose whole career is researching this shit.
That will be very good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my estimate would be, a little more aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. But I mean, my view is like if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from 2 or 3 to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2. And I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm, because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard.
Right.
Just so it's.
Elon trying to soft parent Trump into understanding that CO2 is not good to breathe is kind of fucking hilarious, because he can tell he actually is like concerned about that, but Trump isn't taking it seriously at all.
That's actually start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to live. So we don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think we've got. I think we want to just move over, and like, and if I don't know, 50 to 100 years from now, we're I don't know, mostly sustainable. I think that'll probably be okay. So it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to move towards. And on balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower, but like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry and without causing hardship in the short term. I think
Nemesaur says ANWR has at most 11 billion barrels of oil. Saudi Arabia has over 200 billion barrels of oil. Yeah, that's a bigger number.
this can be done without people can still have a stake, and they can still drive gasoline cars, and it's okay. It's like it's not. I don't think we should vilify people for it, but I think we should just generally lean in the direction of sustainability. And I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way. And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast, they're sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally, I mean,
Trump was saying the opposite. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs. That's why it came up. He was saying, in Alaska, we have the biggest oil reserves, bigger than Saudi Arabia. So that's why it was brought up.
Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It's probably the most expensive joke out there. But I don't know, I like cheesy humor, So, but I'm a big fan of like, let's have an inspiring future, and let's work towards a better future, and we can do so without demonizing people.
I'm okay. It's very interesting. You use the word global warming.
Interest. He really got. Oh my goodness. I can't do that voice. You know the one I'm trying to do though.
Today they use the word climate change because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming, because not every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction. But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks of the cars, and it just seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first, but it would seem that
that's already a thing they could hypothetically do, but the amount of power you would get from that would be negligible and would increase the price of the cars to the point that it would not make sense.
Solar panel.
You can get like a solar panel that you can carry with you and charge a big battery if you want, but it's not efficient. That's why it makes more sense to have big centralized areas where energy is gathered via a ridiculous number of solar panels, and then you distribute it via the power, network.
On the roofs, on flat surfaces, on certain surfaces, it might be good.
Yeah.
At least in certain areas of the country where you have the world, where you have the sun. But I would think, and I have no idea because that's not my world, but I would think that this would be something that would be interesting. But the one thing that I don't understand is that people talk about global warming or they talk about climate change, but they never talk about nuclear warming. And to me, that's an immediate problem. Because you have, as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear, and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president, because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China is much less than us right now, but they're going to catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower. Russia and us are number 1, and we're sort of tied. And China is far behind, but they're developing at a level that you're not surprised to hear very fast. They'll end up catching up. Maybe even surpassing. But to me, the biggest problem is not climate change. It's not and everything's a problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big problem is the nuclear power. The power of nuclear is so great. And when I talk
Yeah,
about
nuclear power is underrated. It's
I'll
awesome.
prevent World War
Yeah.
III, I will. But the truth is that you have to, because this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is
Yeah.
a level of destruction and power that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah. And
Has he heard of Japan?
actually, there's the bad side of nuclear, which is a nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also, I think, nuclear electricity generation is
Absolutely.
underrated.
You're right.
And it's actually, people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. And if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining operation. And there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. You compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better.
I would agree with that. I don't like Elon, but nuclear energy is a good thing, and modern plants are very safe and have tons of redundancies. I think we should be putting more effort into nuclear energy while we continue to develop things like solar and outbuilding more like wind and stuff. Yeah.
So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done. So that
maybe they'll have to change.
I don't know if cutting regulations the way to go, but yeah, I would like more focus on nuclear energy as well.
The name is it's a rough name. There are some areas like
when
you see what happened in
bad branding.
Right, we'll have to rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something.
Holy fuck, he's dumb.
No, it has a branding problem. When you see what happened,
it does have a branding problem.
When you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where they
what? He's talking about the Fukushima.
There's a lot of bad things happened, and they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will start to occupy the land again. You realize it's pretty bad.
No, that's not true.
But you're right about it. It's amazing.
It's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's actually not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it. And I donated a solar water treatment, a solar powered system for a water treatment plant. And
but you haven't been feeling so well lately, and I'm worried about it.
No, but I mean,
I'm only kidding.
It's fine. It's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah, Chernobyl is in Ukraine.
Bombed, but now they're
I'd imagine Musk considers that part of Russia.
Full cities again. So
right.
it's really not something that
it hasn't been part of Russia since the Balkanization.
That's right.
So it's not as scary as people think, basically.
Yeah.
But let's see. I mean, are there some other topics we should touch on? Like lawfare. I think we need to be concerned about.
Oh my God! They're gonna complain about getting sued.
What they've done to this country.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we just won the big case in Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me.
No, he didn't. You broke the law
with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury.
He didn't win. Eileen Cannon, a judge that I believe he specifically appointed to the bench, decided based on the Supreme Court's decision about immunity that she was going to drop the case, and it's currently being appealed.
And they used local DAs, they used the local attorney generals.
That's true. He is suing ex-advertisers, former ex-advertisers, Twitter.
Like Fani, Fani, spelled F-A-N-I, Fani. And it's all a big hoax. And it's all run from there. Like in Manhattan, one of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before, and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare. It's a terrible thing, and never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries, but it's never happened. And the incredible thing is, it actually drove my numbers up because people see. Fortunately, I have a platform like you,
and his numbers are doing great now. They're not.
In all fairness, like a conversation like this, where I can talk about it and people understand. I mean, you fight for election integrity and you end up getting indicted because you're fighting for election.
You tried to overthrow the election results, asshole.
Integrity. And when the day comes that you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what happens is they went after their political opponent, me. Now Biden's, close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at him today on the beach and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because
Demibird says Fukushima's clean because the elderly in their 70s and beyond volunteered to assist the cleaning efforts so the younger generations wouldn't have to worry about getting cancer from the radiation. Quote, I'm not going to live long enough to see those effects, end quote. Boomers here would never sacrifice themselves for the country. They're all talk. They'd be like, kids these days just don't want to get radiation poisoning. Lazy kids.
it looks so bad. And it's ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing that for a long time. He can't lift the
Yeah, he wants to be facing Biden badly. He still keeps bringing him up.
chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people to lift. And he can't lift it.
Does Donald Trump know he's an old person? He's like 80 years old. Does Trump know he's an old person? How old does Trump think he is? He's like the same age as Biden. They're like 3 years apart.
The whole thing is crazy.
Well, he's clearly not, I mean, he's clearly like, we just don't have a president right
You
now.
don't have a
That's just obviously
president.
the
And
case.
she's going to be worse than him because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco. And then as attorney general, she destroyed California. You talk
California is just a heap next to Nevada.
about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco.
She was the first DA of San Francisco.
She was the original attorney general in California. What she has done
What the fuck does that even mean? She was the original attorney general of California? Original in what sense? What do you mean?
California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you
No.
don't have to even put up, and then they never find the people unless they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our country is becoming a very dangerous
Untrue.
place. And she is a radical left San Francisco liberal, and now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible, but she wants to be more Trump than Trump.
Yeah.
I want a wall.
I think that's,
she
yeah.
wants to release all the prisoners that are in detention, and some of these guys are really bad.
Right.
That just came
Yeah, I
out
just saw
today.
that.
She doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. In your business,
Walls do not work. It's one of the longest contiguous borders in the world. People can climb over walls, they can climb under them, or rather dig under them, they can bash through them. Jesus. Most people, as I've stated before, who come in and are undocumented immigrants, didn't cross the border illegally. They came in on visas and then overstayed the visas.
everything you do is obsolete. Almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel. And the wall.
Everything is obsolete except for walls.
Wall, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add 200 miles. We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant, I said, wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders. She wants to have open borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
Yeah, this is simply not true. This is simply not true.
And everybody knows
it's
it's not true. It's a disgrace that she can say it.
Remember the sections of wall that did get put up, and then there were footage of it being broken immediately and people coming through?
Yeah, obviously, what's happening sort of overnight is they're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far left.
Worse than Bernie Sanders. She is considered more liberal by far than Bernie Sanders. She's a radical left lunatic. And if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore. And she'll go back to all of the things that she believes in. She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking, zero. Now all of a sudden she's saying, no, I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way,
yeah, fracking's really bad for the environment. So let's not.
If people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, they won't vote for her. Like the Palestinians and Israel. She is so anti-Israel, and she's bad for both. Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him. Both sides. That was a hard thing to do. Unification.
Yeah, no. I mean, Netanyahu came to give a talk to a joint Senate and House sitting, and I was there.
Yeah, Netanyahu can get fucked. What a monster.
And Kamala stood him up. What is that?
Good. Fuck Netanyahu.
That say?
I think it's highly disrespectful. And I say, if you're a Jewish person or if you believe in Israel, if you're a person that is very pro-Israel, if you vote for her, It's worse than Biden, and Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your head examined. And you see tonight, I mean, as we're doing this, I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. You know, their Iron Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped. We'll use the term that's
Yeah.
appropriate, swamped. But they
Yeah.
swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles,
Sure.
they can't defend themselves.
But wait, you said you wanted America to have an Iron Dome, but you just described it not being able to work if you fire enough stuff at it.
You know, they just obliterate the whole
Yeah.
place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
you'll be worse than him because she's a believer
Yeah, no,
in
I
being
think you're
radical
right.
left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right. I mean, it really, it's important for the public that may be listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, before the last month and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it.
What does an independent moderate even look like these days? Is it just someone who is literally in the middle of having their brain like a spike is in the middle of their head and they're barely cognizant? How at this point are you uninformed enough to not have some opinion? Like, what are you doing?
Because it is her behavior has been far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala's moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
Well, her
so I
her
think
running
that-
mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay.
Yeah, it was tampons for all school bathrooms. So that's good. It's good for people to have period products, believe it or not.
Now,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
all
that's
I have
weird.
to.
I also don't believe it was up to him what bathrooms they went in. It was literally a budget, and then some schools decided to put them in boys' bathrooms too because trans people exist. Hi, I'm one. What's up?
Here. Tampons in
That's
boys'
weird.
bathrooms. And that means she believes
Yeah.
in that too. I mean,
Yeah, that's
she
not
picked
okay.
this guy.
There literally are trans men. That's a thing. It's not like Bigfoot, where you're like, ooh, you think that's a thing? Trans men exist and require period products? What?
Because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president,
Everybody's
if we have a
saying it.
Democrat at this moment as a president, I don't think our country can survive.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. And I think really it's essential.
Can we deport Elon Musk? Or like remove his United States citizenship? I'm just kind of sick of listening to him, to be completely honest.
That you won for the good of the country for this election, and I mean that's understating my opinion. Now you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission saying to not have disinformation on during this discussion that we're having, and there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries, and
Stop lying.
what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. We have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, with Ukraine. So we're in for $250
Does he
billion.
understand that the United States geopolitically intentionally put itself in the place of world police for, soft power? The fact that we have military bases all over the world and, intentionally insert ourselves into things is not a mistake. It is an intentional strategy of the United States to do that. Does he get that? Does he get that we get things in return for that? I'm not even saying you need to agree with that. I know plenty of people in this audience don't. I don't even necessarily. But, does he understand it's not a mistake? It's not that someone fucked up, right? It's that we intentionally did this to have power globally, so we have, bases everywhere, we can extend our reach, we can, anywhere around the world deploy if need be. This wasn't a mistake.
And they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. if you add up the European nations that, in terms of an economy, it's about the same size when you say as us. And they're in,
Yeah.
and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy would be Russia. It used to be for the Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is they're in for 70 something million. I think even less than that, billion, and we're in for about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that. And I say, why aren't you going to equalize? Why aren't they paying what we're paying? And they're in much more, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not, but they should. And I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States was the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I said, I went in and I said,
yes, the United States is like the biggest economy in NATO. Yep.
You got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat, but you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars.
I sped it up slightly. It's like 1.25 speed.
Came flowing in, and
I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses,
and then we get taken
disproportionate. What?
Advantage of on trade. So think about it.
Well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's it's like, then okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe?
Because wars in Europe are not good for the United States, you fucking idiot! Oh my god!
Than Europe. That doesn't make sense. That's unfair. And that is an appropriate thing to address.
Well, when you talk about cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do, because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me, because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have
the perfect phone call.
It and said, oh, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russians and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
Yeah.
Now, they've taken advantage of us incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech, because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with false attacks, and you didn't
He's such a sycophant.
try to shut down the media. You didn't try to inhibit their freedom of speech. And
what?
I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people,
He literally talked about wanting to open up libel laws so he could sue news organizations for saying things he didn't like.
We can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it, like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't, because she's not smart. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, where am I? Where am I going? So
says the man who had to get pulled out of an interview recently because he was doing so bad.
Anyway, but no, he wouldn't have this.
That's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that we can have a conversation, and I'm able to get it out without, because I get treated unfairly.
This is a really big point. You can actually have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
And you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like it's not possible.
Musk, no one wants to talk to you. How would you know?
That's true.
So this is like talking
like
to
that they're imagining a hypothetical scenario and then jerking themselves off over it. Like, yeah, if Kamala was here, Biden was here, they couldn't talk. We're great.
So it's just impossible.
Well, but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all these. I got along with Kim Jong-un. We had dinner. We had everything. And he
I love Dictators. How great.
Really liked me, and I got along.
Is this where he's at? He's so desperate, he literally has to be like, if you don't vote for me, you're gonna die in a nuclear explosion. This is what he has?
With him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. A lot of people said, oh, do you think he will?
That's for
Let
sure.
me tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man, he said. He's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But, in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it, but I guess you are. You should be allowed to say it if it's true.
What are you talking about? You say it all the time. Republicans say it all the time. What do you mean you're not allowed to say it? What are you talking about?
But we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now, you know Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is, the whole concept
Yeah.
is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I
It-
saw a
it-
picture of
yeah,
her
Can you
yeah.
on
imagine
Time
a woman doing politics? How silly.
Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually,
Yeah,
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania.
yeah.
She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah, well,
I'm sorry, what? What? Green guy with a $3 tip says a good example of men failing up. No kidding.
maybe like I think it's part of what people in America want to people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future. They want to feel like the
It's true.
future is going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than.
I would say that's the messaging of the Kamala thing, and yours is go back to years ago, right? Like your whole thing is looking backward. That's the conservative mantra, is the past was better.
We've done in the past, reach
Right.
new heights that make you proud to be an American and excited about the future.
They want the
and,
American.
Nothing makes me feel less proud to be an American than Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And Elon Musk isn't even American, but boy, does he act like he is.
I think
dream
this-
back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people, they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. The Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent. And when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was.
Yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars.
Yeah, that's what we need right now. Don't help working people. Let's put people on the fucking moon again. Woo!
We could build high-speed connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport. It's possible to solve traffic with tunnels.
Right.
Solve traffic with tunnels. No! You already failed at this. You don't get to say that when you demonstrably failed at this. You fucking sold the Hyperloop. What are you talking about? What if we took traffic and put it underground? Will that solve the problem?
We already made
No!
great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw what you
Like,
did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible.
It's literally a tunnel underground that Teslas drive through with an LED light. It looks like shit. H-Beard says, I propose a trade. We do the Mars colony, but all the colonists are trans.
You could do that all over. You could do that all over. It's deep.
Yeah,
You don't
and
even need much structure, assuming you're in the right area.
No, it's straightforward.
It's amazing.
I think we could do some things that like China's got incredible high-speed rail between its cities, but I think it's actually possible with tunnels if with deregulation, with an ability to actually.
If you just let me do it really dangerously with no respect for worker safety or rights, then I could totally build big stupid tunnels underground.
Where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels, then you could have high-speed tunnels that are actually better than.
Why would you build high-speed trains underground? For what purpose? Why? Just build them normally. It'll make more sense and be cheaper, you psycho.
Than anything else in the world for high-speed transport between cities, and that would be something that
Elon Musk's hyperfixation is coming up with the stupidest solution to every problem that already has a solution.
Americans can say, "Wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the world." That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an
and
American.
much safer than surface trains, where there is a danger there. With crazy people.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Much safer, much better.
It is not safer to have underground high-speed trains.
It's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating. And I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains, they call them, I guess. And they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And it doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also like there's I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that like I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes
You're right.
illegal, and that actually slows down the
Everything
development
becomes illegal. I keep having to come up with new ways to mistreat and exploit my workers, and they keep patching it.
of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of like I think
Phoenix, thanks for 24 months.
there's room for
Happy second anniversary.
some reform at the FDA for
Yeah.
improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's
Yeah.
lives. And
I worked very
and-
hard
and,
on that.
you know,
We got that down to the lowest number ever. And we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved in the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And, it's a very bureaucratic group.
The FDA at numbers you couldn't believe. A sentence that definitely makes sense.
Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down.
That's so funny because a lot of the Trump supporters are anti-vax people that think the FDA rushes things through and has you take experimental drugs, which isn't the case.
Before, and I got some things done very quickly, but it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
Yeah, it just takes too long, and it's you end up in the same with the approval, but it's just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take months. That improves
Because you're trying to test for long-term side effects.
people's lives.
Yeah.
I think I just wanted to sort of hop on this point that like there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations, because otherwise they just keep building up every year. And you get like hardening of the arteries, and eventually everything's illegal or takes forever. And then we just
Regulations are written in blood.
we just ossify as a society. We can't make any progress, and it's a really big deal.
Elon, just getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in, and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever.
A space age medicine. Hey, oldie McOld pants. The space age was, let's see, 50 years ago? The space age isn't futuristic. I know that's an old-timey phrase for the future, but the space age is considered like the 60s and the 70s. So knock it off, you oldie old man. Harold Elbelman with the 7-stream streak says, speaking of, I'm getting some vaccinations in an hour at my local Walgreens, pneumonia and flu. The new COVID comes in late September. Keep up with your shots, y'all. Yep. Make sure you get inoculated.
It may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. But people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved where you can, you basically, look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability. The country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list. If somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative. Okay. And as you know, we got it done. We have saved
So basically, theoretically, you helped them cover up bad reactions to drugs because the person is terminally ill already. Great. That sounds good.
To try. They've been trying to get this done for 58 years, and it sounds simple, but it wasn't, because of, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it, but we got it done. Somebody you sign a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody, and we got it done, and we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to try. Hopefully you never need it, but if you do, you don't have to travel to Asia. People, if they had money, they go to Asia, they go to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home.
Does Trump know healthcare costs money in the United States?
Home and die.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S. I mean, they got more regulations than we do.
You want to piggyback off of other agencies' research and time? What are you talking about?
So why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did
There's
something
different
that really,
standards. Oh my god.
trying to do it for 50 years and they just couldn't get it done, and I got it done. And it's really something. But you're right. Some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that, generally speaking, would
Yeah,
work. It's pretty crazy.
absolutely.
You're right.
And I think so, as long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons, and like these are the risks, these are this is the risk, and like you make your own decision. That makes sense.
Well, I think just,
So
in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You get a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get
yeah,
nervous, because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. What is the number? Wow. What is it?
well,
Wow.
I think in
Wow,
terms of
Please
people,
look into thalidomide. Children of thalidomide. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
That's bigger than you said. You said 25, and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70. And I guess over a period of time, hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days to
Right.
weeks, it's going to be hundreds
That's
of
what they
millions.
say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an
Yeah.
honor. I just asked this: are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls
I'm better off now because I don't have to listen to him every single fucking day. I do now because it's election season, but my God, I want it to be over.
on that, and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it, and they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over. I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant
yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, do have any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, 3 of her friends in 3 separate
Crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets in New York. And I said, well, what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just know
they
that
always get away.
nothing's going. And they don't even bother reporting it because they know that they're not.
Yeah, I find that very hard to believe that his wealthy mother has other wealthy friends that are regularly getting assaulted on the streets of New York City and nothing happens. I'm gonna hack X to doubt on that one.
People are not going to get prosecuted. They just let violent criminals out.
Sassy P says, I live in New York and I'm fine. I live in the middle of the city.
New York.
The only one that gets
zero bail.
prosecuted is Donald Trump. They prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean it's just obviously messed up.
Oh, it's terrible.
If violent criminals are being getting off scot free, and meanwhile the New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like what's this and I think
Why are they assuming the muggers are migrants? You know why they're assuming.
the sort of sensible public looks at this and says, what the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system. The legal system is supposed to be protecting the public from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president, as opposed to some legal case.
Yeah, that's what the votes are for.
Once they start this precedent,
You can vote for a president who's in jail. Fun fact.
because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent, what they're doing in terms of, going after their political opponent. And that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent.
No, man, you did crimes. Stop it.
And then you get a judge who's, a strong Democrat. And I'm being nice when I say that, in many cases, crooked as hell. But you get a judge and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you'll have a jury pool with.
Hey, you decided where you committed those crimes. Maybe commit crimes in redder areas next time.
People that hate Republicans or hate. It could also be the other way, though, because it could start the other way in areas where they hate Democrats, and you get into a Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is losing. New York City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say, we don't want that to happen to us. That's no
I would bet 0 business has left New York because of the Trump thing.
justice system. You have an unfair system of justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So, all of that stuff is important. But the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of inflation.
I think
That's not true, Flower Sheeps. It was a person who had Truth Social as one of the things they looked at, but they looked at a bunch of things.
a lot of opportunity.
So it wasn't that.
Absolutely.
It's interesting how claims morph over time, because I've seen that same claim change like a game of telephone. So that's interesting.
Absolutely.
So
And I just want to,
I
I want to
think
congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. You know, we can talk, you and I can talk about rockets.
it's kind of you to say thank
Well,
you.
tunnels, we can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars.
Hopefully after November, you'll have tons of time to talk with whatever other rich assholes you want about whatever stupid thing.
So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I
Well,
congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And well, I mean, I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great
Yeah,
again. And
AI investments are crashing.
but we can do it now.
I would call them a correction, because they were overinflated, but yeah. H-Bird says, hopefully after November, Trump will be listening to Crackles and Pops. I understood that reference.
But if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad.
How about you never come back?
We have to do a lot of
I think that's a
things.
very real risk.
Yeah, it's a big risk.
It's a very real risk.
Yep.
And it's, I'd just like to note to people listening, like, I've not been very political
Elon, I think that if Trump loses, you should move out of the country as a protest. That'd be great.
before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been I'm not like some sort of tried to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and solar and
It doesn't matter. You're still. Look at what you're doing. Your business doesn't mean you're a lefty. What in the world? Sassy P with another crazy super chat, $100 super chat, which I will add to the tip counter. Says, possible point of medical privilege. They don't know what the F they're talking about. And second, why does Trump sound like Sylvester the cat? And third, today I have toilet paper, so yes, today's much better than 4 years ago. No, they have no idea what they're talking about. And I think his dentures are not adhered correctly. I've heard people with dentures before who, if the seal is not quite right, it kind of sounds like suffering. I can't do a Sylvester voice, but I can do a Trump voice. I can't do a Sylvester.
and Baptists helping with the environment, and I actually I supported Obama.
Oh, I heard big dick energy. I heard.
I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed-in-the-wool long-term Republican. I'm actually
No, you got fucking red-pilled by getting like brain-wormed by a bunch of weird internet posts. Isn't it weird that one of the wealthiest people on the planet is also susceptible to far-right propaganda? What a shame.
myself, historically a moderate Democrat, but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country. I think a lot of people thought, the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not. And
It has been.
obviously, we're just going to see an even further left administration with Kamala.
I hope it's further left. Keep it coming.
That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. She was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. You can Google it. I mean, it's not a.
Her dad's a Marxist economist. Oh boy, let's Google what Elon Musk's dad has to say about him. Spoilers: Elon Musk's dad hates Elon and thinks he's a spoiled little bitch. And Elon Musk told a story about getting pushed down the stairs once. And his dad was like, oh yeah, he deserved it. He was making fun of a classmate whose dad had just died and was making fun of his dead dad and got pushed down the stairs. Elon's a big piece of shit.
We're not making this up, That's how she was brought up. So
unironically, I would be very happy if Elon Musk and all of his things were taken from him and nationalized, because fuck Elon Musk.
And
it's not even a political stance of mine. It is a personal grievance. Chitara says, Elon peaked at the top of that staircase.
We want to have a future that is prosperous, and I think we're just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is kind of at a fork in the road. And
DJ Shea says, Harris's dad is not a Marxian nor Marxist economist. He's a post-Keynesian economist and only called a Marxist by articles attacking him. Gotcha.
It's true.
Was I ever an Elon Musk fan? When I was like 17, I thought he was cool. But my only exposure to him was through puff pieces.
And I think it will take if the path to, like, you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also
Trevor of the House Belmont, thanks for following.
experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself, but I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before, and I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left, and so this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say, I think you should support Donald Trump for president, and
I watch Iron Man 2 now and just cringe. Oh, that scene's always been embarrassing, but yeah.
I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if it goes the other way.
Well, I want to thank you. And, I actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's
Yeah.
even more of an
Well,
honor to have your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But, when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America. And now it's almost not livable there. And California.
Republicans were saying the same thing about San Francisco 15 years ago, and 20 years ago, and 30 years ago. This isn't even a new talking point, just like when they talk about Chicago. Like, it's just the same stuff on repeat.
Likewise, and she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California, and she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope the elections are going to be run honestly, and we're going to turn this country around.
It'll be honest if he wins, not if he loses.
And we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are radical, stone cold killers in many cases, and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of murderers and terrorists. Wow, weird that that's not noticeable. That's incredible. He just lies like he breathes.
And we have to take them out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to restore.
Again, Republicans have historically increased the deficit.
Both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system. Just stop the lawfare, and I think
stop.
Respect in the judicial system, just stop the lawfare, and
stop committing crimes.
How does even right-wing positions? I think that's just common sense, and that's I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand. The whole, they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And again, I told you that crime rates.
Liberal and progressive are different things.
The world are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is, if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela, because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country. Okay, so you and I will go, and we'll have a meeting and dinner in Venezuela, because that's what's happening. Their crime rate's coming down, and our crime rate's going through the roof, and it's so simple.
Our crime rates are also largely down.
And you haven't seen anything yet, because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated, and they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police. We have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their job without being destroyed.
Trump sped up starts to sound like Ben Shapiro.
Well, absolutely, and it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to arrest.
Being a pizza delivery man is statistically more dangerous than being a cop.
Violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal, and then the DA doesn't prosecute, and they just let the guy out. Yeah. Well, then, like, why should a police officer risk their life to arrest a violent felon?
Well, even worse, Elon,
nothing's going to happen.
Even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go.
Yeah, if they do something wrong.
After it, and
ideally, they barely get prosecuted.
Prosecute the police officer, and they take away his pension. They take away his job. He loses his family.
Do you know how hard it is for that to happen to a cop? You basically have to be on camera, literally murdering someone with malicious intent in order for any of that to happen, and Trump is defending it.
He loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times Square in New York, and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California. Well, what is I mean, that is a gross indignity against the United States, and that's how, I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? How can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything. You know, we see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things. But I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand-up fighting a police officer. There were two of them. And you had about six of these guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead.
Did Trump see the footage of January 6th where they were punching cops in the face? Because I'm a little confused, because he says he wants to pardon all the January 6 people, but they were attacking cops? So it kind of just seems like he doesn't make any sense.
Dead if they did that. They'd be shot.
Yes.
They would be shot instantly. And, you know, they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that we don't do that in this country. But in their own country, if they stood on a street and had a fight.
Again, I think he's seeing non-white people and assuming they're immigrants.
Fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness. And it's such a sad...
I'm sorry, you think that not shooting someone is politically correct? Good God.
It's such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you have crime, by the way, because we don't do anything about it.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera by...
Like on January 6th?
You know, a gang of illegal immigrants, and then nothing happens to the guys that beat up the cops. I mean, and they're let out. This is unacceptable.
Well, we're going to change it, and we're going to get them out of the country. You know, when I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back? Because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries, so you couldn't land a plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million.
That's part of soft power. What does he not understand? Handiness Rex, thanks for 15 months, says, woohoo, subbed again. Well, welcome back.
Good. Tell them they're in default. They're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept it. And you know what happened? They all called me, every one of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy. But it's one of those things. And we got it back. We took in so many, you know, MS-13 is probably the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here. And their countries took them back. And because I said, you're not getting any more economic aid. And once I said that, they were nice. They wouldn't take them back for Obama. They wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
It's just gotta be done. We just can't have whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have, because they won't prosecute citizens either, not just illegals. So you can't have repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get incarcerated.
That's right.
Because they will obviously, by definition, continue to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally.
I'm really feeling the empathy throughout this conversation.
I agree with that. You want to have empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You have one layer deep empathy. You got to say, like, what if you don't incarcerate this person? Who are they going to hurt? Who are they might kill someone. They might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals, and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why you want to have deep empathy for society as a whole, not
Holy fuck, he thinks what he's doing is empathy. My God.
shallow empathy for criminals.
Right. And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about
literally not a thing.
Violent crime. And it's going to get more violent because these are really, really violent people. And we're going to get them out of our country, and we're going to get them back to where, because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries. And I know every one of those guys. And they're smart.
Like literally a conspiracy theory.
Smart people. And they're streetwise people. And they really think that the USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people. And they
I mean, you were in charge for 4 years.
Happened to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back. And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So, you know, I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country straight.
Yeah.
And I didn't need this. I'm like, I didn't need this. I had a very nice life. I didn't need to go
Yeah,
through
yeah.
court systems and go through all the other stuff and run at the
Sure.
same time. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I have beautiful oceans that I have places. This was.
Yeah, you're really fucked up, man.
But I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again, because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad. They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're
Yeah,
going to
it's
stop
horrible.
crime.
Like the
And
facts speak for themselves. The
it's
facts
so incredible.
speak for themselves. Like it's gotten to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of
That's
cities
right.
because they know nothing is going to happen. That's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So it's just my values. I'm just saying to people out there, like the things I think are important for the future is like we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending. And we've got to have deregulation, and
Right.
so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting, sort of moonshot projects that people can get fired up about. And that's the future I'm looking for. And I'm pro environment, but I'm not against. I'm not like I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry because they're keeping civilization going right now. And but I do think we want to move
Keeping it going right towards an iceberg.
a reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think and
It's done in like 5 minutes, Professor Strangefinger. Not even like 2.5 minutes. It's done. But thank you.
So I mean that's why I'm supporting you for president.
Well, I appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We want companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't hear about the American dream anymore, Elon. You don't hear. You're the American dream in the truest sense, but you don't.
He really isn't. His parents were wealthy owners of a diamond or an emerald mine in South Africa. Apartheid South Africa. He was born wealthy. This isn't the American dream.
You don't hear about the
This is the reality of America. Rich people getting richer and pretending that they're a rags to riches story.
American dream anymore, and you're going to hear about it. People, they need that incentive to go out and do it, and they're going to love their lives. I mean, they're going to look forward to getting up in the morning and going to a job that they love, not a job that they can't stand, or not any job at all where they have no money, where they literally have no money, and then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're going to do some great things, and I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military. We did so much, but I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things. The people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington, D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never stayed over. And you don't know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now, we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I know everybody. And I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. To me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people, a great inspiration. And I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up. And I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think that election will be the most important election. And I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country, because if we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny of civilization, and I think we need to take the right path, and I think you're the right path. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot, but I hope you got a lot. I know you got a lot of them. So I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Well, that was just terrible. That was fucking pathetic. Alright. So that's stream number 1 of the day. Thanks everyone for hanging out and watching that nightmare. I'm gonna end this stream with no raid, and I'll be back in about 5-10 minutes or so. so we can do Tinfoil Tuesday, because it is Tinfoil Tuesday. And, yeah, we're doing 2 streams today. So, I'll be back soon! I'm exhausted. See you in a little bit, everyone. Come back!